Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Michael Wilson, and I'm the webinar producer for KardasLarson. Today's session is Time Off, Paid or Not. We'll spend the next 30 minutes exploring paid time off and leaves of absence practices and learn how you can balance the needs of your employees and your business. Now for a few housekeeping notes. Everyone on the line is muted by default. Please download this presentation and respond to polls when you're prompted. You can also utilize the question box to interact with the presenters during the presentation. Please follow KardasLarson on LinkedIn and Twitter, or check out our new website to watch previous KardasLarson webinars. And we value your feedback, so please take the survey that you receive after the webinar. Your email will contain a recording of this session. Now let's meet your presenters. Lisa Schipani and Lois Krause have spent many years helping organizations of all types and sizes to successfully develop and grow both their people and their businesses. Lois has special expertise in labor law management, while Lisa's proficiency is in leveraging employee performance and development. Both of your presenters are committed to helping you maximize performance. Now I'll turn it over to Lisa to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Michael, and good afternoon, everyone. Hope that you are all staying cool on this toasty day. And today, we're going to talk about a number of items. I'm envisioning that all of you are working through peak vacation season with your employees. These are the vacations that have been planned. And you're most likely receiving some unexpected time off requests. I call those unplanned. And sometimes they can really wreak havoc with your organization. So what we're going to look at today is the landscape of paid time off as it relates to vacation or PTO banks. We're also going to look at the types of leaves, those that are mandated and then those that are discretionary, and balancing the expected with the unexpected and continuing to remain productive. We're also going to talk about getting out in front with clear policies and procedures, and how do we create a win-win for your employees and organization. So Michael, let's move to our poll. What we'd like to know is a little bit about your organization. Let us know about your approach to paid time off. Let us know if your benefit is a traditional vacation, sick, or personal plan, whether you offer a PTO bank, or you may have an informal paid time off program, and you may have something completely different. So take a moment and let us know about your organization. Excellent, thanks for participating. And it looks like 63% of you have a traditional vacation, sick, and personal time off program, while 38% offer a PTO bank. Let's take a look at how that stacks up from a World at Work survey. So this is a survey. I sort of combined the results for a survey done in 2010 and 2014 by World at Work. So the movement toward PTO continues to increase. Currently, about 54% of the companies surveyed offer a traditional vacation, sick, and personal time program versus PTO. The significance here, though, is that that is up. In 2002, it was 71% offered the traditional program, and now 54%. So PTO is on the rise. And that might be because PTO is often viewed as more flexible. When you need time off, whether you're sick or whether you have children who are sick or you're taking a vacation, you don't really have to declare why you need the time off typically. You just are using your PTO bank. It's oftentimes easier to administer, and PTO is really becoming a key to remaining competitive when attracting and retaining employees. The next stat, 70% of the companies surveyed provide accrued time off. So when you're thinking about your time off policy, you need to determine whether it's going to be accrued time or at the start of each year, you're going to give your employees a certain amount of time. One of the benefits of accruing time is in states where you need to pay out time off benefits upon termination. It's more easy to calculate. One of the challenges with accrued could be that at the beginning of the year, your employees might need to borrow time for the necessary time that they need to take off, which means that they have to recover that time as they are accruing throughout the year. The survey also indicated that 75% of companies allow a full or partial carryover of unused time. So employees, whether it is the traditional plan or a PTO plan, have the ability to carry over, which will allow them to plan for perhaps a longer vacation the next year or a special event. Companies average 9 paid holidays, which tied into the federal paid holidays and secular holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas. And close to 80% of companies see time off practices as important to attracting and retaining talent. And over the years, we know that work-life integration has become critical in terms of retaining employees. So now let's take a moment to look at how you craft your time off policy. So there are really 3 things to consider. You want to consider your company culture. You want to consider whether you're looking at a plan where everyone receives similar time off based on tenure. You may want to consider a tiered type of plan where in the organization, as you move up in the organization, you receive more time off. So you really want to look at the culture that you are trying to create in your organization. And if you've joined Lois and I on these webinars before, you'll know that getting your employees' feedback and learning what's important to them is something that we talk about a lot. We believe that that is critical. Some of the other things you might want to consider from your employee base is if you're having a challenge with people calling in sick or people using excessive sick time, certainly thinking about a PTO bank might help you with that. You also want to consider your location. It's critical that you understand your state laws as you're putting your plan together and really understand what is classified as wages. In some states, leaves are classified as wages. So truly understanding the locations where you operate will help you put your policy together. So those are some ideas really on paid time off. Now Lois is going to take us through leaves.
Do we lose Lois? Lois, are you still there?
Sorry. Thank you, Lisa. I don't know what happened there. We have many leaves besides the traditional vacation and PTO. And the mandatory leaves would be the state or the federal FMLA. And that requires a lot of discussion and paperwork, as well as accurate tracking. And there are also Connecticut or other state or municipalities or even counties that have enacted paid sick leave laws. And that requires adherence to the calculation of accrued sick time and tracking of what has been taken. And it also identifies different reasons that the leave is allowed for. It's not necessarily just for someone being sick. It could be for a sick child, or it could be for domestic abuse, or it could be for going to court for domestic abuse. There are different reasons, or even some school meetings that are allowed under the Connecticut paid sick leave law. So you have to know your state or your county or your municipality, because in other states they are, especially in New Jersey, they have a lot of different requirements in their different counties. Then we have workers' comp. Now, workers' compensation, that will be based on the severity of the person's accident or illness from work-related situations. This one may have to be looked at in regard to some other leaves like FMLA and short or long-term disability, which could be which could be discretionary. You don't have to have those, but you have to have workers' comp. And many times these different leaves coordinate with each other, and you really have to take a look at them across the board to make sure that you dot all the I's and cross all the T's with those. And then we have military leave. And you need to make sure you know the law about this and grant the full rights to a military leave. It could be a 2-week leave for National Guard each year, or National Guard's people may be called up to go overseas for a tour of 6 to 18 months. But you must hold the job open for up to 5 years if they are called up. And then looking at the discretionary leaves, we have the paid personal leave, which could be rolled into your PTO, or we have unpaid personal leave. Some organizations do allow people that have already taken all of their PTO or their vacation and personal. If something comes up and say they came from another country and they have, maybe not be a medical emergency, but it might be some other type of situation going on in their home country, and then they need to leave and they need to go there. And a lot of organizations will sit down and talk to the people and have an agreement, but they usually have a specific policy laid out for this. And then bereavement leave is not always, it's not mandated anywhere, but it's usually one that is a discretionary leave that most organizations do allow. But you need to have a policy on that as well to say how many days or weeks that are allowed for bereavement leave and for whom you can take the time off, whether it's immediate family, and that should be listed and determined, or if it's for people that are, like good friends or distant relatives, and those should be identified in a policy. And then we come to short and long-term disability. Now, those are discretionary. They're not mandatory, but lots of organizations have that in their benefits because they are things that people expect. And short-term disability could be just a quickie, the 90 days to get you to the long-term disability, and sometimes organizations do use that short-term disability to get people to the long-term, and they may self-insure. They don't necessarily have an insurance policy to cover that, and then they might have a long-term disability policy that they from an outside insurance company. And when you have the outside insurance company, it's a lot easier to keep under the rules. They will define what the rules are, and they will tell you when the person is allowed to take this insurance. It has to be approved through them. But if you self-insure, you run the risk of coming out looking as discriminatory if you allow one person to take the disability insurance and somebody else is rejected. So you need to have a specific policy for that, and you need to adhere to that policy for everybody. So, as we were speaking about policies, as these different situations can harm productivity and create burnout for those who are still at work and deflate morale, we'd like to share some thought-out rational tips to help you handle it all and keep the morale up with productivity. First, we'd like to have you establish, document, and publicize your time off policies to include federal and state mandated leave policies or discretionary leaves. Whether you offer the paid time off or the vacation, sick, and personal, as we discussed previously, ensure understanding of the policy itself and know that your employees will know how you will determine those whose request will be honored, and when two employees request the same week, day, etc., and if they will have to know how you decide what vacation policies and practices will be. And with vacation or PTO, common approaches are usually first come, first served, or they use tenure. And you need to be consistent to avoid the appearance of favoritism. Just remember, no good deed goes unpunished. So, and you could always run into a problem with discriminatory charges. So, I mean, that's always a liability as well. You should establish policies for all of your leaves, including the discretionary ones listed, and have a plan on how you will administer those as well. They can be spelled out in a handbook or in a benefit policy document, but they should be listed and have all of the requirements listed to enable the employees to understand what is expected of them when these situations come up. And sometimes, even if you have that policy, they don't know about it. You would be surprised to know how many employees do not know about mandated leave, much less some discretionary leave. So you need to publicize them for all to understand. It will save a lot of time in the long run when everyone is under stress and expected leave pops up. So now we would like to ask you to go into your question box and tell us, how does your organization handle leave requests? Let's see what let's see. Okay. All right. Some of you said that the people go to HR and HR handles it all. Others go directly to their managers and the employee and the manager work it out together. And some people say that they don't have a plan at all or a process. And one person said, we're usually too stressed to set down a policy in place. And I have one person here that says the supervisors make decisions. And another person says that they fill out a PTO request form and give it to the manager for approval. That's always good. That has everybody involved. And then we have some more people here where it says HR handles, HR handles, HR handles. Seems like HR is handling a lot of this. So, okay, that at least you have a lot of you seem to have a process in place, which is very good, so that the employees have the process and they know what to do. Make sure that that process is publicized, no matter how you want to handle it. Okay, we would like to give you some helpful hints right now and best practices for moving forward in this process. And this is what we call the EPS, or empathy, protection, and support. Now, empathy, that's the E. You should show empathy when an unexpected time away leaves you short-staffed. Your managers will feel a heavy burden is being placed on them when their team has approved time off and someone becomes ill or an employee has an out-of-state emergency and needs unpaid time off. Or they need bereavement leave, or somebody gets hurt at work and they go out on workers' comp. First and foremost, make sure you have a confidential, empathetic discussion with the employee to understand the parameters of the leave, if at all possible, and show that the organization is concerned about them and wishes to work with them to find the best outcome for them and the organization. This ensures that all the prescribed rights and responsibility, laws and policies are adhered to, and it helps to make the employee feel listened to and needed. Suppose someone comes to you and says they need to discuss a confidential situation with you that requires you to discuss the leave with a manager. You may tell the employee that this is a non-medical leave which needs to be discussed with their manager to ensure proper coverage in the organization in their absence. We suggest that you ask the employee permission to have the manager join you in this discussion to see how we can all work this situation out so it's agreeable to all. Remember, most employees are very interested in doing a good job, and many will be upset that they are putting the organization out. This empathetic discussion allows them to know that you are being reasonable and that you understand that life happens to all of us, and it shows that you respect them as a good contributor. Now, the next is the P, protect. Protect your organization and require that the employees complete all required documentation. We know that everyone hates the paperwork, but please ensure it is completed properly to minimize liability and to maximize efficiency. In your efforts to be empathetic and keep your employees' best interests in the forefront, you may want to say, go do what you need to do and let us know what's going on when you can. This approach seems reasonable and empathetic, but it may put you in jeopardy as you may not have a good grasp of the situation and may not be able to completely adhere to government regulations or even to your own policies. Your employees or organization may be harmed in some way if you do not get a complete grasp of the situation. If your organization has a personal unpaid leave policy, make sure you follow it consistently. If you do not have a policy, make sure you document the leave, ensuring that both the organization and the employee understand the parameters of the leave with mutual expectations. Like you want to give them a letter from the organization and have them sign it. And you also state in there what the regular communication will be from the employee as things develop. So now I think Lisa's going to take over and talk to you about support.
So the key here really is to show your support for the employee and also to continue maintaining a productive environment. And it's interesting, I'm working with a client right now on a large project, and a member of the project team had to take an unexpected leave of absence. And of course, everyone else on the team had their planned vacation scheduled. So what did we do? The first thing we did was we rallied the team together and explained to them that this individual needed to be out on a leave, that it's confidential, we're not able to talk about it, but we want to support her in the best way as well as continuing along with the project. And what ideas did they have for us to be able to do that? And it was really amazing. No one had to give up any of their vacation, and people jumped in to do bits and pieces of the project, and in the end we were able to bring a temp in to do some things for the folks that had stepped up to the plate, and it worked out very well. So it's really important that you pull your team together, make them be a part of the process of determining how to move forward and coming up with a plan And maintaining confidentiality. Lois talked about that significantly in terms of protecting the employee. If you're having a confidential conversation, keep it confidential. And any information that's mandated to be confidential, keep it confidential. And I've always found that the colleagues really understand that, and there's not really an issue there. And by doing all of this, you are showing your support for the organization as well as your support for employees, and that goes a long way to retaining your employees. So we're going to move to a wrap-up because we want to have time for your questions. So if you think about what we covered today, making sure that you define your paid time off policies. And I'm happy to see that all of you, the majority of you, do have either a traditional or a PTO program. Determine what your leaves or your discretionary leaves are going to be and document your policies and procedures. And then practice the EPS, the empathy, protecting the employee and the company, and supporting your employees. So Michael, let's move to questions.
Okay. The first question was in regard to some of the World at Work data that you gave out earlier, which was that a national survey or a regional one?
It is, in fact, a national survey.
Okay. And Lisa, while I have you here, one question is, we have a traditional vacations, sick policy, and would like to move to PTO. How do we begin?
Well, I would say the way to best begin is really determine why you want to move to PTO. Is it ease of administration, or you want to be competitive? I think you need to determine your why, because you're going to need to articulate that. And then you need to look at how will you calculate your PTO banks. For some of you who may have taken this journey, you know that people who use a lot of sick time view this as a takeaway. People that don't use a lot of sick time view it as a positive. And so usually you land on, you know, how you've derived the PTO bank, and I recommend being transparent about how you do that in terms of if your average sick days are going to be 3 or 4, you know, let folks know that. And also communicating, you know, best practices on managing your PTO bank. So those are some of the things that I would suggest to get started.
Okay, and Lois, one for you, which was, do you have any tips for how managers can show empathy to employees about, upon first hearing about an unscheduled leave?
Well, usually HR has to take the bull by the horns here and talk to the managers ahead of time and give them a little training session on how to be empathetic, because usually frontline managers usually aren't that empathetic because they are thinking about how to get everything done. And it usually hits them like, oh my God, now you have to be out too. Now who's going to do that? And so you need to give them talking points ahead of time, have them prepped and say, okay, if somebody comes to you for an unexpected leave or needs some time, you know, in the middle of, you know, your busy season or busy vacation season, you need to say, this is the thing you do. This you ask them, is this something that is, you know, medically, you know, related or something like that, and you know, give them the talking points and the list to go down so that they know that they have to hand it over to HR, or they have to, you know, work with the person. But if you give them the words to use ahead of time, it would be a lot easier for them to come off as seeming empathetic.
Okay, and the last question we've got here says, for a pregnant employee, do we have to pay for this leave if they do not have enough sick leave for the 6 to 8 weeks?
That depends on where they are, there is paid pregnancy leave in different states and in different counties and municipalities, and it's so you have to know the law where you are to be able to for me to be able to answer that.
Okay.
Definitively.
Thank you, Lois, and thank you, Lisa. Thank all of you for attending this KardasLarson webinar. We encourage you to follow KardasLarson on LinkedIn and Twitter to receive information on future webinars, compliance updates, and our speaking engagements. Please be on the lookout for an email later with a survey and a recording of this presentation. And download the presentation PDF if you haven't yet had a chance to. We are now signing off.